Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major!
Or like they were talking about, like, you know, they've clearly enhanced her voice through computers in some form when she has the quote-unquote voice of God. And then David's like, yeah, but if you were being threatened to be burned at the stake, you could probably belt out a Jesus says that you all suck. Like,
I for some reason didn't say this while I was watching it, but I was like, did she just put on the Billy Madison gibberish voice? Where he's like, he's like, Billy, I said no gibberish at the table.
oh my God, someone needs to do that. Someone needs to either take the Benedetta stuff and put it in Billy Madison, or put the Billy Madison gibberish into Benedetta. That is incredible.
I'm gonna do both.
Sorry, Kevin, I just can't get Billy Madison at the dinner table just going like, blasphema! Like, out of my head.
Damn it, Billy, I said no pig Latin at the table.
Sorry, Daddy. Yeah, you need to eat the soup.
I would like Benedetta more if it gave me more Billy Madison vibes.
At one point,
Benedetta just spraying a kid in the face with a water hose. What are you doing? Stop it!
I mean, it'd be a guaranteed like for me because they'd be saying my name a bunch. Doyle rules.
No, I'm just imagining when she has those visions of Jesus and she runs towards him, but it's the giant penguin from Billy Madison, and she's like, "I'm coming, Lord!" And, like, the penguin's just running away.
I see what's going on here.
So sorry to interrupt. Proceed.
He called the shit poo.
What if we just end up unintentionally making this into a Billy Madison podcast instead of R Christmas?
I would be so happy.
I actually do really want to talk about this movie, guys. Like,
I want to talk about Billy Madison.
Oh my god.
So
Hey, have you noticed that Billy isn't around here anymore? Yeah, I think he's going to, like, school. Oh, yeah.
Who would steal 30 bagged lunches, and it just cuts to Norm Macdonald's and the bus driver just...
I'll turn this bus around and put it into your fancy school trip.
my math tutor used to quote the "that's correct" bit a bunch to me. When we'd be doing like math questions, be like, "That's correct," you know.
Yeah, that's good.
That is correct. So this is...
I haven't seen that in
Hold
so
on.
many years.
One more and I swear to God I'll let it go. Fucking Steve Buscemi in that movie, that's his second best performance right there. Thank God I called
lipstick.
that guy.
Yeah, with a hunting rifle. Yeah.
Just a little wave he gives.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh, God.
I don't give a shit. This is the intro of it. I don't care. We talked about Benedetta, we were current, and we switched it around and talked about Billy Madison, a true classic of our time.
Okay.
Now, how do we tie it back to Abel Ferrera?
Yeah.
I truly laughed so hard I thought I was about to pass out. That was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't seen that in so many years. I should watch that again.
I've
never seen Happy Gilmore.
Like,
I should
don't
see
need
that
to
one
watch
too.
it. Oh, Happy Gilmore's fantastic.
Yeah.
At the end, when fucking Abraham Lincoln, the Gator, and Chubbs are in the cloud.
I think my favorite part is when he accidentally kills Chubbs by giving him the gator's head, and he falls out the window, and it's just this one extra that just looks up and just goes, Like, yeah. Then it just cuts to his funeral, and he's like, yeah, everyone around me seems to be dying. I'd run if I were you. Like, yeah.
There's also the Happy Gilmore reference in Jesus Walks by Kanye West. It's like the "you eat pieces of shit."
Pieces of shit for breakfast, yeah.
Oh.
No. Yeah. The price is wrong.
No. Those are the rules. I had to hit it off of Frankenstein's fat foot. You can count on me waiting for you in the parking lot after the game. Okay. How about an actual question, even though this is going in? Since this movie is about what happens because they're trying to get a toy for their kid, let's talk about, because we're all adults, there's no waiting for Christmas, really. What is your biggest Christmas present that you've gotten, more than likely as a kid?
When you say biggest, do you mean like in like physically or like
No. Like the one that you were waiting on, it was the best. I should have said the best, but yeah.
I feel like mine is the least unique or special. Just my Nintendo Wii. Like all my friends had one, and I really wanted one. And when I got one, my dad hid it. He's like, "Oh man, we opened all the presents. There's nothing left." And I'm like, "Dad, you forgot something." And he's just like, "Oh wait, I think we did too." And then that was probably the happiest I've ever been.
See, that happened with me, but it was the PS2. We opened up all the presents, and then the PS2 came out, and they were just like, "And we rented all these games. Go!" And I was like, "What? Oh my god!"
How old are you?
Well, that was the PS2, so 2001, 2002. So I was probably about 9 or 10.
So wait, 2001. Did they also give you a DVD copy of R XMAS?
No, it was probably we went to rent, like, I don't know, Mission Impossible 2.
Is this
like
R Xmas or is it R Christmas? Because like Xmas is the
I think Ferrara, when he's talked about it in interviews, he said R Christmas. I don't know. I like saying R Xmas though, just because like I don't know, for some reason it just works.
But maybe I'll be ignorant. What the hell does the R stand for?
Remixed. I don't know.
Is it like R Christmas, like OUR, but it's shortened in a way that nobody has ever done before, or what?
I think it's just like this is screaming out it's an Abel Ferrara film, not for children. I don't know.
Is it rated R Christmas?
The rating is in the title. Yeah.
I'm with you, both of you though. I got a GameCube, 2001. That was big. I got an N64 when I was a kid. I remember I also got a Super Nintendo, and then the power went out, and I don't think I got to play it that day.
Nice.
But, of course, I
see. My
played it
GameCube
for
story was
my
different. That my cousin gifted me the GameCube when he got a Wii, actually, and so then
hell yeah.
So it's like that ruled. But like thinking Santa gave me the Wii at the time, that was just like, oh my god. But
Bryden, what about you?
I'm struggling to think. I feel, and it's funny. Probably the ones I can't tell if like the ones that are coming to mind are ones that like were given to me or my brother or like both of us that we just like happen to use. Because like I know like I don't remember which of us got Guitar Hero, but I feel like that was like a pretty big game for like both of us. Like that introduced like a lot of stuff to us musically, and that was like a game that we were playing like for like hours on end, like like every weekend. And then like we like that expanded to like Rock Band and everything. That was like, I feel like that was like a pretty big one, and we had that on the Wii too. Like the Wii also, not I'm not making up.
The Wii U. No.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody had anything for the Wii U, but
it's also funny.
I remember getting the Guitar Hero World Tour, like the drums and all of that for Christmas as well. And then I tried to play the drums, and I was like, nope. I should have just got it with the guitar, because all this other shit is not for me.
There was one year I got a Mario DDR game for the GameCube. Then I
Holy shit.
Over. Yeah, you had to outdance Bowser or some shit. I don't remember. I think my parents were like, we'll gladly give this to you. You are getting no exercise at all. So
it's funny to think about how we all named video games, or like a lot of like video game related stuff. Like, I mean, personally, I'll speak for myself. I'm not much of a gamer nowadays.
Yeah,
like we have
me
like
neither.
a few systems still like lingering in our household, but like it's not really like the pastime I go back to.
I am, but it's not a constant. It's always like, I just recently got, it was me and my girlfriend's like Christmas present for both of us was the Xbox Series S, and for like a month straight that's like all I wanted to do, and then now I haven't touched it in like a month. But it's just like I go through phases, but like movies are the constant, and then like I'll just want to play video games for like a month and not want to watch anything. Same thing with books, stuff like that. It's just, it goes through waves and whatnot. But
I'm kind of, well, I was the same way, where I had all my old systems like Super Nintendo, N64, and GameCube that I would just constantly rotate those, and I was like, I don't really need anything. I just get so much nostalgic joy out of playing this stuff. But then during the pandemic, I got a Switch Lite and just got sucked in all over again. Especially Breath of the Wild, which is an open world game where I'm like, well, this makes me feel like I'm sort of going outside, like, because it wasn't allowed to go anywhere. So,
Yeah.
you know, just
I'm mostly,
now, of course,
I'm mostly using my PlayStation for like streaming, and for DVDs and Blu-rays. And I feel like if I were to get back into gaming, it would just be, I need a fresh reset, new system, new games, like maybe trade in everything I have, and then just like build up from square one and just like really be dedicated to it and have fun with it, and not feel like I need to catch up with everybody and what's new.
So all of these are better than a party girl or whatever doll that they are fighting tooth and nail to get.
Yeah, none of these were a riff on Jingle All the Way.
No.
I mean, if you think about it, this is. I actually did see someone I follow on Letterboxd put this in their diary, and their review was, "Oh, it's Ferrara's Jingle All the Way," and it kind of is.
I think I saw something similar. Who was that wrote it?
Michael Clausen. He's a co-host of Drink in the Movies podcast, which is a good show.
Okay, but imagine Sinbad in this movie and Ice-T and Jingle All the Way. Imagine Lilo Brancato,
yeah.
Brancato in Jingle All the Way, and Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie, though.
Who directed Jingle All the Way again?
I said I don't have any more drugs or money. What do you want?
I'm not a pervert. I just don't want a Turbo Man doll. I also couldn't help but think about like Lisa versus Malibu Stacy, the episode of The Simpsons, where they're like, it's Malibu Stacy with a new hat. And I'm just kind of like, that's how everyone's reacting to this fucking doll.
Yeah, and Smithers is the most excited, yes.
Yeah, I want it, me. Yeah. It also has one of my favorite guest turns from Kathleen Turner, who plays the person who made
Malibu Stacy. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Come on, we have to do something. Not now, I'm too drunk.
Welcome to Almost Major, a podcast where we talk about the many major studios and the films they released. We are still in our Artisan miniseries, and we continue today with R XMAS from 2001. My name is Kevin Tudor. With me again is Charlie Nash.
Hello.
And Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And unfortunately, we still don't have Clay Williams this week, but we have exiting through the 2010s, Jack Draper. How are you?
I was the understudy. Glad to be so. Yeah, good to be with you guys again. This is
all of our carrier pigeons just never made it to Clay.
Yeah.
They just
never made it all the way
across.
Across the country. It was extra to pay for cross country. We're recording this live in New York, actually, to celebrate our Xmas. Yeah,
in a car, about to pay somebody $500 for a party girl doll. Hopefully, everything goes right.
Hopefully, there's no shenanigans that are going on with this drug dealer with a heart of gold.
Hopefully, Ice-T doesn't show up and lecture me for 30 minutes. But well, like I was saying, we were talking about R XMAS from 2001. This is. Why didn't I put down... God, I'm such an idiot. It was written and directed by Abel Ferrera, right? But it's also co-written by somebody else.
Ferrara co-wrote it with somebody else, yeah. It is... Let me check. It is co-written by...
Are you talking about Cassandra De Jesus?
That is... Scott Padro was... Scott Pardo co-wrote the screenplay, and yes, as Bryden just mentioned, it was based on a story by Cassandra De Jesus.
Yeah, like... Ferrara is kind of cryptic when he's talking about it in interviews, but there's like a few interviews I found where he talks about how I think this was based on like a story like of an actual like husband wife like drug dealing like couple and everything, and like she was the one who like was given a lot of like the intel on like the story, like consulting almost with the story, and that's why I think it's like based on her story credits that she gets. I should like go. It goes without saying, I guess. Like, but that's like Cassandra De Jesus is an alias. It's because like don't want to give your name when you're in that activity, I guess.
Right. Okay, so this premiered at Cannes in 2001, the Chicago International Film Festival, October 5th, 2001. It was eventually released in limited release in the U.S. November 8th, 2002. Like limited, like it went to one theater. And I think it quickly just went to a DVD release after that.
Yeah,
It also was. Oh, sorry.
Please go ahead. I mean, you might be saying what I'm gonna say, but go ahead.
Oh, it was Ferrara's follow-up to New Rose Hotel, which has garnered a bit of a resurgence and a cult following, but that was like destroyed by audiences and critics back in the day. I think it has like a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's a good film. It is,
I like it a lot.
yeah, it's very esoteric, so I think that like after that, it was kind of tough to
get financing, yeah. And
yeah,
since like the financing troubles have been ever present throughout Ferrera's career, since this, even so much as going out of the country to in Italy, I believe.
Also, yes, and this is easily one of the most restrained and straightforward Ferrara films I've seen. And I consider myself a pretty big fan. I've seen like I want to say 9 of his movies, but
I think I'm par with you.
Guess,
yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised by how just minimalist. I mean, it's a Ferrara film, and it's still got all of his flourishes and stuff like that, but especially compared to New Rose Hotel, where the last half hour, that thing is pretty incomprehensible, even if it rules. Like, this is all... you can follow it pretty easily, so...
Yeah, there's an interview, the interview I was going to talk about, it's an interview with Cinema Gotham in 2002, and this is so long ago that Ferrara is still living in New York, because he's now since moved to Italy, where he says, I think that's where like it's easier to get funding for his movies. But he talks about how it plays the can, and it seems like things are going pretty well, and it's Studio Canal that's going to be releasing the company, the French production company. They put up like a full page ad. It says, but then he says, from that moment on, that company had gone into total turmoil. Studio Canal's parent company, Vivendi Universal, came close to bankruptcy. There's no company. There's nobody there. You can't get anybody on the phone. They're being sold. There's nothing to say, except as long as we finish the film, I'm satisfied. If it happens, great. And yeah, but then he says like it goes to DVD, and like Kevin said, it only plays in a couple of theaters. And with the Artisan of it all, I believe that's where the DVD release comes in, because there's a trailer for R XMAS that you can look up online where it says Artisan Home Entertainment that's releasing the movie. Whereas if you watch the movie on iTunes, it does have just the Studio Canal logo that comes out.
I can't remember, has Artisan Home Entertainment come up on the pod at all yet?
No, because for Artisan we're only doing theatrical released ones. But I mean, this one did go to theaters, but
one theater, singular. You mean
one singular theater where it made $850.
I don't even think Ebert got to review it, and he.
No, I checked. Yeah, I couldn't find Roger's review.
I mean, he gave like Body Snatchers 4 stars. I know he wasn't the biggest fan of Dangerous Game, but no one was, which is a shame because that movie rules. But
yeah, there's the article, the same article on Cinema Gotham. It's like a DVD talk like column or whatever. It says there's like an update where like the interview is happening in August in like the summer when the movie status is still like uncertain. But then it says update. It will be released on DVD on November 19th. It will also be released in select New York and Los Angeles theaters on November 22nd. Which that seems like a really raw deal to put the movie out on DVD, which is way more accessible than put it in theaters. It's kind of like, I mean, I guess it's not that dissimilar from like Netflix releases like being released in select theaters as well as like being put on Netflix, but like I don't know, at that time like direct to DVD has like kind of a bad rap to it, right? Like it's like
and like when I was like, I feel like direct to TV still has this idea of being the buried sequel too, like especially with Disney, like that's where they would always go to be like, I don't want to put Aladdin 2 in theater.
Lion King 2,
or keep it Artisan, Stir of Echoes 2. That's direct to DVD, I'm pretty sure.
Right. I can't name Disney. That's too big of a studio. Sorry.
Are we talking about S. Darko on this podcast? Are we giving airtime to S. Darko?
I haven't seen it, but I just remember
nobody has. What? I mean, they still got, what's her name? Chase.
DeVay Chase. Samara herself, yes. They got her to come back, but...
Don't they have like a nobody guy in the lead role? Or, yeah, let's see.
It was her. I think it was her. She was the...
She's S. Darko, the titular role.
Yeah.
It's all about sparkle motion, I'm assuming.
Oh, that's funny.
You remember
Sparkle
that?
Darko.
Like, it's so weird. Like, if I were to make a spin-off of... Ed Westwick is in this movie. Okay. Oh, man.
Jackson Rathbone, I believe, the other guy from Twilight, isn't he in it too?
Oh my god.
Is that another knockoff
Wow.
sequel I'm thinking of?
I hate
Do
it.
I have to? Oh, Elizabeth Perkins is the second lead in it. I feel like if you were gonna do a spin-off of Donnie Darko, you should do it about Maggie Gyllenhaal. Like,
Oh, she
I feel
wasn't,
like-
she didn't care. At that
I
point-
mean, no.
At that
at
point,
this,
she was doing Secretary and Sherry Baby.
no, this
I
was
think.
this was 2009, so Dark Knight already came out, so she
yeah.
definitely didn't care. Who directed Dark? Nobody. Okay.
You try to look it up and
R
it says
XMAS.
redacted when you try to
Back
look it
to
up.
RA.
It's just the
Yeah.
shrug emoji on the IMDb page. Yeah.
Yeah.
Error
Alan
404.
Smithy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is weird, Bryden. The date that you gave is different from the one that's on the numbers, so I don't know what to believe. But
Well,
it came out in November.
I mean, maybe the update. They just maybe this website wrote the update and then just did not go back to it. I mean, I don't know.
Probably.
Bryden, did
it
anyone
came out in November.
celebrate the 20th anniversary?
Not yet. Although maybe they're waiting for the next year when it because it was because I'm looking at the interview. It plays at Cannes in 2001, but then this interview about its uncertain status is in 2002. So I guess it really was in turnover for a while.
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of the movie with Amber Heard. That was one of the longest turnarounds from the festival premiere to the.
Oh yeah, all the
release
boys love
date.
Mandy
All the
Lane.
All boys
yeah,
love
yeah.
Mandy Lane.
Jonathan
yeah.
Levine, right? Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
by that point, his second movie is the first thing to come out, The Whackness, I believe.
Right,
Yeah.
and by that
Right,
time,
right.
Amber Heard was cast in all those things, but yet nobody saw the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I
Apparently
heard
it's
the movie was
not
fun.
that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting that Charlie
I always-
brings up this was the follow up to Nero's Hotel, and then after R XMAS is Go-Go Tales, right? And that's the movie about the strip club. So it's he's really trying to keep it into this tight package, even when he's just okay, I can't really go bigger like I did with King of New York or something. And
I mean, where does everyone stand with Ferrara? Because I love him and I love his work. He is a lunatic, and I think that that's why he can create great art. But he kind of not in the same way. They're both provocateurs in different ways. But I kind of think about him in the same ways with Paul Verhoeven and how they approach Catholicism, but they also love poking the bear in many ways. That is almost always uncomfortable, but also darkly funny, and is ultimately empathetic for people who are often horrible or just unconventional in some ways. And I think and there's clearly a lot of self-loathing. I also thought that it was interesting that he was raised Catholic but converted to Buddhism in 2007.
I was converted to Buddhism too, man.
Buddhism. Jesus. Freudian slip there. I am very lonely.
Man. Sound the Silent Hill sirens. Yeah. As far as how I sit, every one of his movies I've set kind of differently on. I'm positive on Miss 45 and King of New York, but I was just fine on The Addiction, and then this one I'm even lower on. So
yeah, he's kind of a mixed bag for you.
Who's to say what I'm going to think of his next movie, honestly? Which I figure it's probably going to be New Rose Hotel, just because I want to see what's divisive about that.
I think last time I checked, it might still be on Tubi if you want to check again.
hell
He's got a fair
Um,
amount of movies on Tubi, including
Yeah.
one of his TV movies, The Gladiator.
Dangerous Game was on there for a while.
Yeah, they
I
might
love-
put that back on.
Yeah.
I love to watch movies while getting good R XMAS or good RX advertisements, not R XMAS advertisements.
As of the time of we're recording this too, he had 2 movies come out in this year. Siberia, which was on my top 10 and I think is awesome, but is just absolute it I think when I watched it had a 0% user score. He makes movies that are totally personal now and kind of never get the critical acclaim that the fans usually would like to see, but he's also kind of De Palma in that I'm gonna make whatever the fuck I want to make, and if you don't care for it, well that's not my problem.
That's a good
So,
way of putting his modern work is making movies just for himself and attracting people like
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe and Ethan Hawke to be I'll do anything with Abel Ferrera because that's the person who's made so much provocative work throughout the decades, no matter what this script looks like. And even if there is a script, you're right. Siberian Zeros and Ones is incomprehensible, but I find them utterly mesmerizing as objects, and that's pretty rare for a filmmaker to pull off.
Have you seen Zeros and Ones, Jack?
I have, yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet, but
I've seen the cover of it, and I was like, what's worse, this cover or the Blu-ray cover for First Reformed?
Well, what's funny about the cover for Zeros and Ones is like that's a trend that's been happening with Ferrera's work within the last few movies, like Siberia and 444. It's like that kind of makes sense, you know, like for any, and you mentioned First Reform, that's more of A24's problem, but also Schrader. It's like, how do you put an image to something like this?
I mean, the poster for First Reformed was pretty awesome, and they had that, and they just
that's not A24, that's Lionsgate, which bought Artisan, so I don't know what they're doing.
Oh, which one?
Yeah,
which
like
one is?
it comes at. Well, Lionsgate puts out all of A24's movies on physical media.
Didn't know that.
So, like,
Okay.
they're also responsible for
Nice.
that terrible. It comes at an Blu-ray cover. A few other ones.
I only name A24 because I know that they have a trend. Now this is Lionsgate's trend of like, you have a kick-ass poster for the theatrical release, and then once you get to the home video marketing, it's always like the worst version of it. It's like, what the, like, it comes at night in green room. It's like, okay. What?
Not A24 or Lionsgate, but yeah, Promising Young Woman has one of the worst DVD Blu-ray covers I've ever seen, and both of those posters were available.
The like, so awesome poster, and they were just like, how about if we have her just leaning? You're like, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
What?
Leaning at the bar, and you can't even tell she's at the bar.
It's terrible.
The other key Ferrara movie that I feel like we should talk about, or that Ferrara links this to in interviews, is he talks about how this was originally conceived as, not conceived as, but he was thinking about R XMAS in relation to King of New York. He says, what's the other side of King of New York? I was really looking for a film about the drug business. It wasn't 50-gallon drums, and you take over all the Colombians in 2 days, and then 3 days to take over the Italians. That was King of New York. He wanted to make a film about the reality of the business. He talks about like really getting into the minutia of like just like how long does it take to like bag this cocaine and everything and all this stuff. And then he seems a little bit bitter about how well received King of New York is, talking about how like it was like dismissed upon the time, and then like afterwards, like people were like saying, "Yeah, it rules. When are you gonna make another movie like that?" It's like, we already made that movie. I'm not gonna make it again. And you guys were showing up for the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also an interesting comparison in that King of New York is about Christopher Walken getting out of prison and being like, I want to give back to the people. And when it's fine, unless it comes to his form of power being threatened, especially by people of color. And then he's like, no, I'm going to totally wipe you out if you fuck with me. And here it's kind of the same thing where, this wealthy woman who's married to a Dominican drug dealer and is very racist, and they don't really appreciate how much they have in terms of wealth and privilege, and just security within, how much security she has with being white, although she does not have a lot of security being a woman, and then like how it impacts their whole trade impacts everyone who's lower class below them. So
yeah, one of my favorite shots from the movie is like the two of them, and they're in the living room, and they're just having this quiet moment with each other, thinking about all the decisions they've made, and their daughter is like in the other room, and it's just like, what are we doing this for, and what exactly are we trying to do to achieve our goal? It's pretty sobering.
I knew what he. I mean, I every Ferrara film, it's tough to get a handle on at first, within the first few minutes, but there is a moment where, and I'm sorry, this is also a movie where nobody's credited by their character name. They're all credited.
Yeah,
as
it's like
the husband,
man,
the
woman,
wife, the kidnapper. But I'm sorry, Drea de Matteo. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly.
Drea DiMatteo, I think, is how the trailer pronounces
DiMatteo.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's
Adriana from The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Who is very, very good. I mean, there's a moment too where she says that N-word is, stealing from us, and he's doping up. And then her husband says, well, he wasn't an N-word when he was providing us money. And I'm like, okay, this is what, this is like a central theme that's going on here. Like, this is what's like, just the fact that, they aren't racist unless, they can be, there's a problem, and then they can lump them into a certain stereotype.
Or at least like she's never given an excuse to become a like some sort of racist entity, and it's just like she's willing to work with them unless it benefits herself.
unless it benefits herself, and then of course if there's a problem she can obviously weaponize race for her own benefit. But also, like, it's a movie about like the biggest problem they have is they just like don't have enough money to buy a doll, and then it becomes much more than that. And it really is like, it's very cynical towards capitalism. It's very cynical towards the whole the way that drugs impact communities based on race and just addiction in general, like in corruption. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. I feel like I'm not being very coherent here. I'm just making words.
No,
Yeah.
you're fine.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, just like a quick correction, I just double checked, and Go-Go Tales wasn't the follow-up. It was actually Mary. It was the Jesus movie.
Oh, was that his Virgin Mary film?
Yeah, Juliette Binoche and Matthew Modine. Yeah, my bad.
Wow.
It's just another happy Christmas. It's just another happy family.
Okay.
But this family is different. This family's business is about to turn bad.
The fuck is going on up there?
Same shit.
We know that.
You better straighten this shit out before something stupid happens, I'm telling you.
You know that piece of shit Dominican fuck you call a husband carries a $5 wallet?
The fuck are you?
Who the fuck am I? I'm the guy that's got your husband.
I don't know what he wants.
I need some real fucking money. Don't fucking play with me, bitch. You are gonna go get me the money, okay? You're gonna get all the dope, you're gonna pack all that shit up, and you're gonna bring it to me. Simple as that.
A mí sígueme. Y el dinero, ¿dónde está el dinero? She doesn't even have a fucking dime for her fucking son. All that goddamn money we sent down there.
You got a beautiful daughter. You love her father?
Yeah, she fucking loves her father, all right? God, she probably loves him more than she loves me. She's daddy's little girl.
I love you so much.
Wow, this is the best Christmas ever because I got
And this film is starring hold on, I got this. I'm not extremely white, please. Drea Di Matteo. Yes, okay. As the wife, of course, Adriana on Sopranos. Lilia Brancato as the husband. He was also on The Sopranos for a few episodes. Victor Argo as Louis, previously on Ghost Dog. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ice-T as the kidnapper. And just a quick, I couldn't find much just straight up trivia. I could only find some casting choices that were dropped. John Leguizamo was originally cast as the husband and did some work on the script, but eventually pulled out of the film.
Oh, he would have been, I mean, I think the guy who plays the husband's good, but John Leguizamo would have been perfect for this, especially following up Summer of Sam.
Right. Annabella Sciorra, is that how you say her name? Sciorra.
Who worked with Ferrara on The Addiction, yeah.
Right. Was originally cast as the wife, but later pulled out. Forrest Whitaker was initially attached to play the kidnapper. So that's all the quick trivia I have.
I'm assuming Panic Room got in the way with Whitaker, because didn't that come out around the same time?
Yeah, I don't know.
Panic Room 02, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like spring of 02, I think. Yeah.
Right. Initial thoughts, I will go first and just get the negative out of the way so you guys can gush
Keep it
about
brief.
I was not a fan of this. It's just not for me. The slowness of it, I understand why he's doing it, the emotions that will come from that, just the feeling the weight of all of it, but it definitely just kind of didn't really work for me. And Ice-T's fine in it, but Drea is the one that's like actually really, really good in this, and was the big saving grace for it. But the husband, boy howdy, his Dominican accent was not working for me at all. I don't have much notes. I don't have much thoughts other than it just wasn't for me. But like I said, I've been very different on many different Abel Ferrara movies, so I'm sure there's going to be much more that work for me and probably much more that won't work for me, but that's how I am on R XMAS Christmas. So,
Yeah, so I haven't really seen that much Ferrara. I saw King of New York years ago when I was in high school. I watched Miss 45 as preparation for this. That was like the only one I managed to squeeze in because I planned my time badly. Really liked it. I really like this one too. It was interesting, like knowing the premise of like it's about like a kidnapping during Christmas. So I was expecting more of like kind of like a fast-paced genre movie with just that log line. But then, like, very quickly, I mean, it's funny, the kidnapping doesn't even really happen until, like, maybe, like, what, 30, 40 minutes into this very short movie?
Yeah, like halfway through the runtime.
Yeah, but so, like, I kind of liked just, like, all, like, the drawn-out process stuff. Like, I really do love, like, process stuff, like, showing, like, this is, like, the mundane details of the business, and also how, like, and how casually, I think, like, they reveal their lifestyle and everything. Like, it shows them just, like, going to their kids' Christmas concerts and spending their time and establishing, I mean, without excusing these characters' prejudices and their criminal behavior, the movie does, like, paint them as, like, very like irrefutably human and everything. Like, with, like, they have friends, they have family that they care about, and, like, there is, like, kind of, like, it's really interesting how, like, there's all the shots of, like, the family throughout the movie, because, like, it builds, like, sort of, like, a sense of history and sense of camaraderie, even, like, amidst, like, all the business stuff. Like, I love when the scene when they're packing all the drugs and everything, like, you can hear Drea DiMatteo in the background going, like, oh man, like he was trying to get the doll and everything, but then, like, there were these fucking moms who were, like, fighting over it and everything. Like, that's just, like, going on. It's, like, business as usual, but also, like, yeah, they have other things that they need to deal with. And when stuff is getting really tense, it's interesting how, like, it's just sort of uncommented upon, or not uncommented upon, but, like, but, like, just sort of casually established that, like, the family is, like, even though it's, like, there's separate lives between the family and the business, the family is also aware of it, because when Drea DiMatteo is on the phone getting all stressed out, they cut to the grandmothers and the aunts and whatnot, like, getting up on the couch, and, like, the kids, like, sleeping in the room and everything. There is something very touching in that, like, how they're, like, trying and failing to shield their kid and the rest of their family from this life that is increasingly getting harder to maintain. And, like, you know, they're, you know, like, we were talking about how, like, they're unaware of, like, the privilege that they have, I guess, or, like, or, like, how they use other people to maintain their privilege. And also they're not aware of how futile it is, because the movie ends with, like, them in, like, a very uncertain place where it's, like, they're gonna go, where he's thinking, well, maybe I'll get out of this, but then, like, his friend, like, says, you know, get back to business, and then the title card comes over, like, this moment of him, like, singing. It's, like, really happy and joyous, but then, like, it's all gonna come crashing down within, like, a very short period of time. And it's, I don't know, the movie is able to, like, it doesn't ask you to, like, view these characters as good and everything, but it does ask you to view them as human and, like, as people and everything. And I found that very interesting. I don't know, I just found kind of, like, the slow melancholy of it, and, like, the mundane emotional details of, like, their everyday lives, like, very, very absorbing in its own way. I'll maybe try to be a little bit more detailed as we go on in the conversation, but I quite like this one a lot. I really want to see more of Ferrera's work as we go on.
And connecting this with King of New York is interesting, considering how stripped down with style this is. And,
like,
King of New York is kinetic in its
and
style.
people getting, like, shot and, like, blasted, like, 50 feet in the air or whatever, like, having, like, shooting out of, like, sunroofs and everything. I honestly was kind of expecting that with this movie, and it's, like, there's maybe, like, one gunshot, and it's, like, that's really it, and it's
and you see a gun more than it's fired, I think.
That's true. That's more about posturing. And I think when, like, the guns do happen and everything, I mean, that's, like, what I like about the slowness of, like, the first act, where it is, like, just kind of like them, like, going to shopping for the doll, and then, like, it's a hard cut to, like, Lilo Brancato suddenly, like, just being thrown out of a moving van or whatever. And it's like, oh, like, it's, like, it is intentionally jarring. It kind of, like, upsets the rhythm of the movie and also of their lives, too, which I thought was interesting. I'll stop. Jack, I'd like to know what you like about this movie, because you came on for this movie. I'm curious.
I've become more familiar with Ferrera. I've seen 12 movies, and I don't think I'm as I don't think I have a strong relationship like if some of our other friends do. But I get what he's going after. A lot of I mean, including this, a lot of his work focuses on drugs and the effects that it can have on one's psyche and how it reflects others' relationships with that person and if they want to change or not. With this, it's not so much like the consumption of drugs, but it's just like the commodification and how it's affecting one family, and it's so insular. And this one's really, really good. You know, it's made after a string of like very small stories, coming off a string of 90s hits that were like moderately to well received. I think this one's like really cool as like a debriefing after the 90s. But yeah. And it's it has the feeling of sort of like what The Wire was trying to convey a little bit.
I did think of The Wire quite a bit watching this, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much laid my cards on the table saying that I'm a Ferrara fan. This might not be like one of my favorites of his, but I also think like most of his movies, watching it a second time, it'll probably hit me even harder. Agree with pretty much everything Bryden and Jack have said, and yeah, I do think it is interesting just how I mentioned it earlier, but how restrained it was. I was expecting. Maybe it's also because I've been recently watching what he's. I mean, Siberia is just unhinged. Like just scene to scene. Like, what am I looking at now? So it is kind of interesting to watch one of his older movies, even if it came out right after New Rose Hotel, and be like, oh, there's just like it's pretty straightforward in terms of what it's saying, and in terms of the plot, in terms of like how it's not small scale because it's about a kidnapping, but it is kind of like. Yeah, they're all freaking out, but it is kind of played out as matter of fact, like this is part of the job or part of the business that they have entailed. And I think there is something. I was rewatching clips of it to prepare for the pod today, and just like they do have family, and they do have a lot in terms of wealth and upper class status and stuff like that, but like most Ferrara films, these characters are so fucking lonely. Like, I'm not even saying that the couple doesn't even love each other, but like there's just scenes of like the husband in church just by himself with all of the religious imagery behind him, which is exactly everything they're avoiding about Christmas to begin with. And the wife explaining to Ice-T that was just like, look, we met when we were younger, and then we met again, and we fell in love and got married. But like, there's not really like, but then like the scene towards the end where he was like, did Ice-T touch you? Because I mean, if I was in his position, I would have touched you. Like, and it's just kind of like, ooh, oh, like it's all such superficial. Like their forms of happiness are so. It's all just for show. There's not really any like genuine warmth to their lifestyle if they aren't financially secure in some way, and they aren't able to please their daughter, who is a child, who, don't get me wrong, like getting a kid what they want for Christmas is important when they're children, but like the ways that they go out of their depths to buy a doll for like, I don't know, $1,500 I think at one point, or $2,500 at one point is just insane. At one point I was like, is that like a doll made of coke, like in Traffic? Like, are they just gonna put the doll in like water and just snort the shit out of it? No, not really. But it's I do think also, can we just mention that doll is fucking hideous? Like,
yeah, so scary.
And it's so funny too. I looked in my notes that the debate is like the price that I think is pitched is $2,500, and then there's like talk about like, do you want it in a box or a boxless doll and everything? Because there's one of the dolls. It's like she's like, well, what about that one on the shelf and it doesn't have a box or whatever? And they're arguing. It's like, oh my gosh, like it's very. I thought that was funny, just the detail.
I mean, it looks like a 50-year-old version of Avril Lavigne though. Like it's like. I mean, I know that's horrible, but like it's just like that's the doll that everyone wants, and it's like obviously the doll is sort of supposed to represent her kind of inner state, I think, in some way, of just kind of like I'm, because it at some point like this thing is gonna it is either gonna crumble down on them, or if she's gonna live this life forever and grow old and lonely and just completely unsatisfied. So
I think Ferrera's like always tried to be a warm and loving filmmaker too. He's built relationships off of the idea that it's transactional, but they're not too distant from each other. Like the love is real, but it's like, at what cost is it going to be so genuine that we buy into it? And here, man and woman, I don't know. You want to say they love each other and what they're doing is right. But because the movie is like so cold and it's like you can't really see anything here.
He always makes big asks for you to have some sort of sympathy for people who are really committing toxic behavior. I mean, especially something like Bad Lieutenant. I mean, like 20 minutes into Bad Lieutenant, Harvey Keitel makes two teenage girls basically like he basically assaults them, and like in order to get them out of a parking ticket. And yet by the end of that thing, I am very moved by his own inner demons, even though I don't think the movie's ever like, it's not like Ferrara makes movies where like, Keitel's character in that movie is like, I'm sorry for all the heroin and sexual assault I was committing. That was wrong. Like,
Yeah.
it always makes there's always a sense of self-loathing within his characters, and I think within Ferrara himself, where he wrestles with a lot of issues with, just like almost martyrdom and self-harm, and in terms of how it relates to his Catholic upbringing. And I think that does apply here, because I mean, it could be like it is set during Christmas because it makes it convenient for the doll to be, well, we got to get our doll,
and every filmmaker needs to make a Christmas movie.
Yeah, but it does tie into all of his themes that are about, loneliness and almost like a form of, self-punishment and martyrdom, in a way that, like, every single one of his characters feels they deserve. And
because the movie, all of his movies are so moody and challenging and provocative, the relationships at the center of most of them reflect that. And it's like, it feels more cohesive, that it's not like this beating heart at the core. It's just like, it's also like very like, it's pretty distant, as well as the movie is.
It always takes you until like the end of his movies to see like what is truly going on within the mindset of his characters. And I think that like, even if you can pick up on it from like the beginning, I think it doesn't really hit his characters until like the third act mark, especially when it comes to stuff like The Addiction or Bad Lieutenant, or even something like Siberia. But yeah, I think this is, I understand why many consider it to be a minor Ferrara work, but I do think it is ultimately essential viewing if you are interested in studying him as, one of our, as an influential filmmaker. And he certainly is. I don't think he's ever going to break out. He's never going to be mainstream.
Yeah, I was just going to say something similar, that even if this is minor work, this feels like something that feels like, no, this feels like the guy that made Miss 45 and Body Snatchers and Driller Killer. Yeah, it's like,
well, there's not much plot or to go through really, like beats by beats, honestly, unless I'm completely wrong. But I mean, honestly, you could. It's not the plot; it's the how everything is told and whatnot. It's not a very scene by scene type of basis, kind of like when we were talking about Ghost Dog, honestly, but a little bit less than that. But I mean, I can pretty much just give the log line, and that would be like summing up the movie, besides giving the ending, which is hold on, I had it right here. It's a few days before Christmas, and a Latin American couple living in New York City are preparing and packaging their heroin for street distribution. While the wife has her qualms about the ethics of drug dealing, both she and her husband know there's plenty of money to be made. The couple discovers one of their low-level dealers may be talking to the police, but they soon have a bigger problem to deal with when the husband is kidnapped and held for a huge ransom.
Yeah. I mean, do we want to talk about
we've
scenes
all been
that
there.
stuck out to us? Yeah. Just a ordinary Christmas. Yeah. Do we want to talk about scenes that like stuck out to us like throughout the movie? Because I mean, like Kevin said, like, not necessarily a plot heavy movie, but I feel like there's like a lot of scenes that like stick out as like memorable. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think anything with Ice-T and Drea Tomato is pretty good.
Yeah.
I would like to start this off not talking about scenes that stood out to me, but the plot keywords on IMDb for this movie. It's just very.
What are plot keywords? I don't know this.
It's just there's 170 for this movie, which is just like
That's
crime,
more than I would have.
drugs, stuff like that.
Oh, so it's like tags a little bit, like on Letterboxd.
Yeah, like tags. Like,
I just love
like
drug movies and crime movies, guys.
Christmas movies.
First of all, like the top 5 that have 1 out of 1 found this relevant is Blonde Woman, Short Dress, Corrupt Cop, Pig, and Bearded Child.
Oh boy.
Because it opens with them performing Christmas Carol, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I have a feeling somebody looking at that tag and watch this movie be like, what the fuck? That's a fake Bearded Child. This is bullshit. Sitting on Santa's Lap. Okay. just gonna.
That would have been
cruise
really
past
funny if it was like Billy Bob Thornton playing Santa in that scene.
I wonder how Bad Santa holds
in a
up.
Ferrara film.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I like Bad Santa a lot. I haven't seen the sequel because I'm too afraid to, because that first one is dear to me. But
Is there any good comedy sequels that are delayed like 10 plus years that are actually good?
That would be a fun research project, but I can't think of any.
Anchorman is
off the top of
not.
my head.
Anchorman 2 is not terrible. The sequel to Dumb and Dumber I refuse to watch.
oh, it's awful.
The sequel to Zoolander I refuse to watch.
Didn't see that either.
It's not good.
Yeah, like it's.
Bryden's like,
it's
I'll stick out for it.
No, I doubt it. There's some backwards baseball cap. Who is searching for movies with those dolls sitting at a table, pointing a gun at someone?
Can I mention that one scene that stood out to me was the Ice-T's first scene, because his first line is pretty epic, which is the wife just gets the doll, pays like $2,500 for the doll. She falls asleep in the car, and then you get this scene where it's clear the husband's been kidnapped. They put him on the ground. They have like an automatic weapon that they fire a few warning shots into, and it hard cuts to Ice-T slamming her husband's ID onto the window, and Ice-T says, "You know that piece of shit Dominican fuck you call a husband carries a $5 wallet?" And she's immediately like, "Where did you get that?" And I was just kind of like, it just gave me a laugh. And like, I mean, Ice-T's really going for it. Ice-T particularly hates, he and his group particularly hate Dominican people, which that is not subtle at all, nor do I mind that it is. Those scenes, once everything did kick into gear, stood out for me. I mean, yeah, moments like when they are like you said, Bryden, when they are packing coke, and one side character, it's almost like in the background, one person's like, "How are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm exhausted. The Christmas play, going toy shopping, like everything." And it's kind of like, yeah, this is all superficial, like capitalist Christmas shit. Like, this isn't really anything meaningful. It's just it's depriving everything away from the true meaning of the holiday, which I don't think Ferrara is being heavy-handed about at all, but it also kind of is representative of their Catholic lifestyle in a way, and how this type of thing is just completely bringing them no real happiness, even though they are aspiring to, even though they have a ton and are always aspiring to do more, it's not really a life that is fulfilling for them in any way.
That's true. Like, looking at this as a Christmas movie, it's always interesting to see an tour make one, and they interject what they always come back to with their themes and how those apply to a certain individual looking at Christmas, and like what you can take away from it, what you put into it, and like what the holiday means to you. Because like there's this universal idea about what Christmas means. There's a religious idea of it, but also like a personal one. So but.
Even the scene where she buys the doll, it's them fighting for like a while. Like, "Oh, come on, you said this amount of money." And he's like, "Hey, you're just lucky I have it, okay? $2,500 for the doll." And she's like, "Okay, fine, here you go." And then they're like, "Okay, Feliz Navidad, happy holidays, love to your family." Like, and he actually thinks he's being like polite in that, and it's just like, no, it's just fucking ridiculous. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess the movie is like, I think some of it alternates between like sincere and like artifice. I mean, like the movie opens pretty early on with like the Christmas pageant performance, and like Lilo Brancato is like filming it with a video camera, and you're seeing a lot of these images like of family life with like through a video camera. It's like a mediated image of it. And then like when he's like, but then like I love how casually they reveal like that they're dealers and everything, when it's like them like driving to the city, and then like it's like dissolving into them like entering the apartment, and then like it's just like they're like spraying it. I'm thinking, okay, like you could just think it's like spring cleaning, but then it's like, no, they're spraying down the table so they can like cut coke on it. And then like and with the artifice too, it's like they're handing out packages with like festive gift wrapping on it to like people who arrive at the door and everything. It's like it's all like a cover for it and everything, but then
stamping it, yeah.
But then there is like real tenderness, I think, like when they're like giving like the multi-peck smooches to like their kid as they're out the door, and like there's like alternating between like saying tender things to each other in English or Spanish. It's like there are these moments where it is like them genuinely connecting, but this other life keeps, the business of this ugly life keeps like intruding upon them. And it's like
dropping their daughter off at Drea's parents so they can bag up coke peacefully, stuff like that.
You did bring up too, yeah, on this topic, you did bring up how the daughter would being asleep when everyone's panicking and stuff like that. It did make me think of how whenever Martin Scorsese has horrible scenes of domestic abuse and within with characters who have children, that the child is always in the frame somewhere, whether it's, you know, The Irishman where she's watching Robert De Niro kick the shit out of that guy, or Wolf of Wall Street with Leo and Margot Robbie having fights, Raging Bull,
Goodfellas.
I mean, Goodfellas, the kids are always in the picture, and I think it's really clever how they don't ever use this child's pain or like emotional distress to heighten anything. They're just that they're always there, and like that kid probably has an idea of what's going on, but also like when you're a kid, Christmas is like the happiest time of the year, so it does make sense that they want to make their kid happy. It's just that, you know, like they're just, you know, they're corrupt, and they are in a business that requires hurting so many people who, you know, and putting, you know, disenfranchised people like to take big risks in order to make this one little girl happy. And this little girl has no idea that, you know, her parents are, you know, culpable in all of this, you know, chaos.
This kind of feels like something that would happen to a real person. And Abel Ferrera like heard it from another friend, like telling him about a family like going through all this.
I mean, it is basically what happened.
Wow, you're shitting me. Okay, yeah, wow.
Well, like, I mean, it was like a couple that was like doing this, and they just was like, "All right, what's your story?" and everything, and then like she started like relaying it to him.
It reminds me of, in that sense. Now that's true. How the Safdies thought of Heaven Knows What.
Yes, which is such an underappreciated film. Even though the Safdies have blown up, I still feel like that film hasn't gotten its day in the sun. That one's so good.
I think since they've blown up, like people have looked back on that and Daddy Longlegs and Lenny Cook thing. I hope so, at least.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I said the log line, which is a majority of the movie, and then it has a particular twist where we learned that Ice-T is actually a cop. This is his way of trying to clean up the streets. So what was everybody's read of that, and how it incorporates with the family of, like, this guy is not just a low-level guy, he's a cop trying to clean up the streets, like, off-duty and whatnot.
I mean, it makes his racism make sense, that's for sure. Like,
right.
And the hypocrisy of it, too. I mean, in the background of, like, one of the scenes where, like, you cut to Lilo Brancato kidnapped, you see one of the cops is, like, snorting coke, like, in the background. So, like, they're just as, like, culpable in all of this. And, you know, I'm not, like, a big expert on, like... So the movie, like, is set, like, in a period, I guess, like, when the mayor of New York is David Dinkins. Is that his name?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with him, but I guess, like, I don't know, the implications is that, like, crime is, like, kind of out of control and everything. And then Giuliani is the replacement that's announced at the end of the movie. But, like, I mean, it's, like, showing, like, how...
Cleans it up with racism.
Yeah, it's like any solution that the police are having, it's going to be like awful and damaging, like in any way. I mean, and Ferrara talks about how like he's not in support of it. I mean, he says like, you know, broken windows are bad, but also like it's like, you know, it's not fair when like you're sending a guy like to prison for like multiple years for like, you know, a minor offense, and then like, you know, a Wall Street guy like steals like millions of dollars and gets a pat on the back. Like he says like that's like there is like there is still inequality even when like these new solutions are coming in with the police and everything. So he's very critical of that, I think, and just like taking down these institutions too. I mean, Charlie, you talk about when he goes to the church. This is something I didn't even pick up on when I watched the movie, but Ferrara talks about in an interview where like when he goes to the church, it's a heroin buy that Brancato is making with the priest. I didn't even like pick up on that, but it's just like showing how like all these things that are meant to be like, you know, respected or whatnot are like just like kind of a sham. Whether it's police
definitely,
or the church or family or whatever.
Yeah, and it also does make sense that all of the people I noticed while watching the clip again, like all the people who kidnap the husband are white. And it makes sense for Ice-T to be like, well, if we kidnap the Dominican guy, there will be less, you know, if we kidnap the Dominican partner, that'll probably be less noticed. And then we can make the wealthy white woman who he's married to give us all the money.
Right.
Like, I mean, it does make sense from that aspect of when you consider, you know, racial profiling and corruption and all of that. So, like, I mean, yeah, it's also interesting too because like you think about how Ice-T plays a cop in Law and Order SVU, and it was just like one of the episodes where he wasn't filming was he just went to do this that day. It could be the same character for all we know. Yeah.
And speaking of that, here's his greatest line of dialogue from Law and Order. Thank you. Here it is.
I am not gay. I have relationships with women and sex with men.
And I got news for you. That means you're gay.
And we're back. That's all I could think of while watching it. I just wanted him to say it.
I just think it's interesting that like racism is abound in all aspects of this movie too. Like nobody is just a woke saint, which Ferrara would never ever go down those simplistic routes of analyzing. I mean, he's too complex in just human nature and you know the society that they inhabit.
That's weird because the IMDb keywords here, woke saint is one of the keywords.
Wow, I can't believe that mistake. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What was I going to say? I feel like because he's so focused on grit and grime and like dirt, I feel dirty every time I watch a Ferrara movie. Like I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. And race and prejudice is another example of that, just as much as crime and violence is. That's just all these things are intertwined. They're intertwined in Ferrera's vision of New York, and there's something kind of beautiful about that. It's just that's just New York. It's not anything to be pushed back on. It's just.
I'm seeing here that Kirk Cameron's newest movie is called Woke Saint. Okay, I'm done. I swear to God.
Oh my gosh, Kevin.
That's his follow-up to Saving Christmas. Okay.
Goodness. Yeah, Ferrara's interesting. Like these moments are never. I don't think you can just have one takeaway from like any of the scenes. I mean, the scene that you cited, Charlie, that I found like really interesting in the movie was when like he's talking to his wife post kidnapping. He says like and asks if Ice-T touched her, and like there's like 3 different ways you could read that scene or that line reading where it's he could be asking,
and he's really focused on it for a long time too. It's not brushed over.
Yeah, it could be like he could be like making just like a joke to like shrug it off or whatever, or like or he could be like showing like so like showing he's like that's like kind of a cretinous sense of humor or whatever, but like or it could be like his paranoia. I mean, if we're talking about the racial element of it, like if his wife being assaulted by a black guy, I mean that could be on his mind. But then also what's interesting is that scene is followed up by a flashback to his time being kidnapped, and he's being forced to suck on a gun, like perform fellatio on it, and it's kind of like an interesting comment on like masculinity, how like this like he like in his own way like it's like a form of like sexual assault, and it's like and that's like lingering in his mind, and he can't quite confront it, and that's why he's maybe asking his wife about it. It's
he gets his ass beat and is so sore on his side that he can like barely even move, but his main concern is if he did something to her or something like that, because it's like it's okay if I get my ass beat, but I just hope that she didn't do anything or anything like that, or it's just like where it's like with the scene with the gun is demasculating him, but he's even after that he's still falling into the traps of being like, oh, I hope you didn't do anything with that guy and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it all creates this feeling that it's not hectic. Like all these things are happening at not like a breakneck pace, but it's like someone could get killed doing this, but it's not death at every corner, and that's kind of an interesting way to approach this.
Yeah, the scenes where the wife is freaking out too, where she's comforting the elderly members of the household, and then she'll light a cigarette, and then she'll go into the cabinet and take a swig of booze, and then just be like, okay, like it's almost like like gotta pick up my kid from daycare, but like I got all this other stuff on my plate. It's kind of like and obviously this is like a much more serious situation that she's taking seriously apart from that, but it is kind of like that maternal like instinct. But also I'm assuming this is also the first time that she's ever had to deal with something in this line of work on her own before, because I don't know if the movie's implying this, but it's he seems to be doing all of the briberies when it comes to like, hey, I'll give you money for this doll at the beginning. And she's like, no, you can put your name on the list and do this. And he's the one dealing with, getting, being in contact with everyone. And she's kind of now having to like, deal with this all as matter of fact, what her husband has been doing the entire time. And then, like it is kind of amazing that it didn't end in like just outright bloodshed, that he does come home and then they're like, as I believe it was Bryden that you mentioned this, like, yeah, it's all going to come tumbling down at some point. This wasn't that moment, but we know that this isn't going to last. It's kind of like, I mean, if you ended The Irishman at that scene, that party scene where Anna Paquin's dancing with Al Pacino and they all think they're living on top of the world, and it's like, yeah, the loneliness and the dying alone and all that's around the corner. So
yeah, that's the looming presence.
Can you imagine if The Irishman just ended with like a whole like scroll of credits like saying this person died, this person died, this person died. It's like it's like 80 minutes before all that.
And it's like a solo shot of everybody.
It does actually start with characters being introduced and then shows how they died.
No, but like if it ended
that's true,
with that,
right?
If it just did that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and to link it back to King of New York once more, Frank White has all this money and privilege and power that like these characters don't. Like they could have like bribed their way to one of the dolls much easier than man could.
Anyone also pick up on that clown that's always like hanging over them in the apartment or wherever they live?
Yeah.
Which is just like, it's all,
is that like an Elf on the Shelf type
Jesus,
situation?
And then it's kind of like these people are essentially clowning around. I mean, like, it's not like what they do doesn't have an impact on everyone else around them. It obviously does, mostly a negative impact. I mean, I think it's interesting too that like Ice-T does not have a point where he's like, you people are like literally causing all of this damage to the community, but at the same time it's like, is he much better? I mean, like,
no, he's not. His partners are doing coke too. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think it takes a level of complexity, and it's not in a. Yeah, and this is all confined to 80 minutes. I know, Kevin, you had a problem with the pacing, and yeah, it is. It's pretty. It's paced pretty. I don't know what the right word is.
Yeah, because it's not patient. It's just. But it doesn't have a rush. Yeah, it's no rush.
It's almost a vibe movie for the first half hour, just giving you an insight into this world, and then the kidnapping comes in, and it's not as it is anything but glamorized. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Even if it has a style to it, for Ferrara, this is one of the most restrained things I've ever seen from him.
Definitely. Because like the movie's trying to interrogate like, how do you maintain being a good person if you're only just trying to do this for your kid, and like if you're doing something bad but in return for something good, like does the morality equal out? And obviously that's like kind of a timeless question. So
yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about the performances too? I mean, I think I'm not 100% sold on Lilo Brancato's performance in this. I think I think it's like interesting that he's sidelined for most of the movie and everything. So like he maybe doesn't make, it's intentional that he's sidelined for a lot of it, but he is a little reserved, I guess. I guess that's maybe, but then I guess the energy kind of works where it is this guy like kind of like aging up like past the point where it's like, how long can I keep doing this before like I die or like I end up in jail or like, this is sort of like stops being sustainable for me. So I understand why maybe that is like sort of sitting with him. And I think he sells like the ending of the movie where like he sort of like, after he's like, he finds the body in the trunk and then like he walks and then freezes as like he sort of like contemplates like what his life is going to be from here on out. I don't know. Knowing that John Leguizamo was going to be in it does make me think like, I really could like that. Leguizamo could sell the pathos, absolutely. But also like,
I think Leguizamo would work really well with Ferrera too. That seems like their type of energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I didn't pick up
never
on
collabed.
I mean, I can't think of anything. But as for people who haven't completed their filmography, might not be the best people. I didn't pick up on the Giuliani thing at the very end credit.
Oh, you didn't?
What is it? Completely obvious, and it was mentioned.
Oh no, I just I mean, no, wait.
It's a title card at the end.
The title
like,
card,
it scrolls,
yeah.
It scrolls over him like singing at the party. It says like here I'll find the quote. I think it's he's gonna
It's like a few days later. Yeah.
And then to be continued and everything like. But like,
was he strict on drugs? Is that the implication?
Oh, he enforced stop and frisk, sending people to jail for minor drug offenses, sending people to jail for hopping the turnstile. Like,
broken
he cleaned up.
Oh, See, like I was like, was there a mention of Giuliani throughout the movie? Is this a young Giuliani? Like,
No.
It's at the very end of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
but it's also fascinating to think about how this came out. Like, I'm assuming after 9/11, where Giuliani was kind of being championed for how he handled it.
America's mayor, yeah.
Yeah, like, so it's pretty bold for them to drop that final twist of the knife, at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, obviously,
it does relate into it. It's not. I don't think it's jarring.
But,
yeah.
No. It's also got. It's funny. It has that font. What is that font? It's just like it's the most unglamorized, like, just state of the fact, like,
right.
font that I think is definitely a choice. I mean, if anything, it kind of gives you an indication that, like, yeah, this is a Ferrara film, but I'm not going to be like batshit insane like I have been in the past. So,
yeah, restraint's a good word for it. Like, especially after New Rose Hotel, where it's like it's clearly not that big of a budget, but it's still such a moody vibe for 1998, I think.
Yeah, 99, I think. Yeah, the last half hour.
The late states with him are weird.
Fucking. The last half hour of New Rose Hotel, in which it's just remixes of scenes you've seen before.
Yeah.
Completely disintegrates into just complete.
Oh yeah, that one's funky.
Psychosis.
I like that one a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I actually need to rewatch it. But yeah.
And Drea D'Amadio, I mean, we were talking a little bit more about like how like
she's great.
She's so good. I mean, like it's a very dynamic performance. Like when she's just on the phone and everything, like pacing around, a lot of touching her face and like narrowing her eyebrows and everything, and just sort of like there is like the movement of her performance is just very anxious, conveying that energy throughout the whole thing, and it's very watchable.
Yeah,
just, like,
I'm really
around, like it's just trying to watch the wheels turn in her head. Yeah.
It's great how much she has to do. Yeah,
The every time she drops some sort of slur is like it stings too, because you can tell it's just projection onto like other people because she can't deal with the amount of potential self-loathing that she has for being in this situation too. I mean, she says pretty much every horrible word in the book in this movie, and it's kind of like, oh, like you are not okay right now. like.
But then she is really it's the thing of like these characters are never one thing. Like there's the one scene that I was looking through my notes where she's like talking to the families who are saying, oh yeah, my daughter wants to like go to designer school, and she's like leaning, it's like, oh, she does, that's great. Like the way her voice like raises up in pitch, she is like, I'd like to think that she is sincere in that moment and everything, and there are these connections, or I don't know, it's like the kind of thing where it's like, how sincere are you being and everything? You're conveying it very well or convincingly. It's like it makes it.
She's consistently
sort of, like,
attentive. Yeah.
And it's like the lack of. I don't know if I want to say lack of judgment. I don't think Ferrara likes the presence of crime, but it is like it's the casualness. I think is like almost like it is almost have like kind of a non-judgmental tone almost, or at least not like sort of like the gray area of it.
Definitely,
make it very basic.
We also don't know what their lives were like before this. They could have had to deal really with a ton of shit before they ended up getting all of this, which I kind of love that it's not just a rags to riches drug movie, That
would be really interesting. That's like a whole different movie.
But I get the idea that they weren't always this well off.
And
now they're kind of like, like now they have everything they've aspired to get and to achieve, and it's still not enough for.
Yeah, one of the things they're talking about at the end of the movie is like whether or not they're going to stay in business. Is one, yes, will their kids stay in private school, but also I don't want to move back in with my mother. I love my mother, or like but like we can't do that again.
You do love my mother?
Yes.
There's that bit. Yeah. Are we all Sopranos fans?
I've seen the first season. It's really good.
Oh, I think maybe we've talked about it before.
I've only seen like 8 episodes of the first season. I watched it when I was starting my first semester in college, and then college happened, so I fell off the
rock and roll.
But it has been on my list for so long, and the episodes I have seen, like I've seen some pivotal episodes of the first season, like College, which is just incredible. So yeah, it's on my list.
I'm about halfway through it right now.
Oh, cool.
Ish.
Nice. Yeah. I was just gonna mention like Adriana gives Joy DiMatteo so much to do and so much agency and freedom to explore her as this like as this woman who's tied into this mob connection, but still has doubts and with a relation to Christopher. And it's like it's almost like the power dynamic from The Sopranos has shifted into here, where it's like she's now the higher power. I mean, forced into the higher power, but it's like with The Sopranos, that she was always playing second to Christopher, while still like having it be most of the time pretty equal with the two of them.
And it's really only a temporary shift of power, because once he comes home, she's just in her, housewife spot again.
Yeah.
She hasn't really not that she seems to want to exceed that. She seems exceedingly overwhelmed when she's put in this position. But I do think that's interesting. Yeah, I was gonna ask, as someone who hasn't caught up with as much of her work on The Sopranos, because I haven't seen as much of it, where has she been, and why hasn't she been in that much? Because even though this was kind of my introduction to her, she's pretty fucking great. And
one thing I could think of is she was on that Shades of Blue, I think, the Jennifer Lopez Dirty Cop show with Ray Liotta that lasted a few seasons. I think she was on that. She might have been the cop who was investigating.
Yeah, that's NBC. But right, yeah.
Maybe CBS. Well, let me see. One of those.
Be careful here.
She was on about 40 episodes of that. I can't find NBC. And then after that, she was on another show, A Million Little Things, for about 15 episodes.
Wait, based
and then
on the book?
No, that's a different. That's A Million Little Pieces, I think.
Oh, A Million Little Pieces. Whoops. Yeah, sorry, everyone.
And then after that,
you owe me a million little apologies. Oh, hey.
There it is, folks. And then this year she's in the show Paradise City, so she's pretty much stuck with TV for most of her career. She was on Sons of Anarchy for 40 episodes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Desperate Housewives, Joey, the Friends spinoff we all remember.
Oh my god. Well, I think Ice-T, she blends in with Ferrera's energy very, very well, and maybe not was only cast in this because of The Sopranos, but I think it certainly helped.
Yeah, I mean,
oh, definitely.
You talked to Charlie about how well DiMatteo hits the swear words and all the other awful words that she says in the movie. So does Ice-T. I mean, when he says
yes.
How stupid you are, he really hits those insult words with the right emphasis and everything, just really making the
he's leaned into the emphasis. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Knows where to put it.
Not related to this movie, but kind of related. I guess. Well, I can try and relate this. I think Ferrara has a lot of films that depict misogyny and horrific acts of misogyny that men commit, but even when the women are victimized by that, I think he is really good. Maybe this isn't fair of me to say, but I think he's great with female performers. I mean, I don't always think Madonna's a great actress, but I just watched Body of Lies, and then I followed that up with Dangerous Game.
Body of Evidence is what you meant. Did you say Body of Lies or Body of Evidence?
Did I say Body of Lies?
Yeah.
I meant Body of Evidence.
I was questioning that too.
For Meg Ryan.
I was going through Body of Lies. No.
But
sorry, my bad.
But and Madonna is put through the ringer for Dangerous Game, and I know that there have been controversial things about how she didn't have a great experience making that movie.
And also Keitel, I think, is more to blame from reports than maybe Ferrera is on. But
yeah, but I also think the reason I bring up Body of Lies is because that movie just tanked, and then I think Dangerous Game came out recently, and she did not do press junkets or kind of shat on the movie, and I think she's fucking incredible in that movie, and that movie requires a lot for her out of her, and also deals with being in very vulnerable situations where it is men. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. She's assaulted in one scene, in a scene in which she's supposed to be assaulted making a movie, and it is really tough to take. But I don't feel like Ferrara is reveling in misogyny because he aligns with it. I think he's trying to dissect it in terms of just the toxicity that lurks within these men, and how she as a woman is responding to it as a collaborating artist within that movie. And I think that DiMatteo in this, and Lily Taylor in The Addiction, I do think he does bring out really interesting portraits of women that you don't see every day, and in ways that are tough to take, but not ever fully exploited.
I'm with you, because like Dangerous Game, Harvey Keitel is basically playing Abel Ferrera, and it's interesting that he's coming to this place of self-reconciliation that's pretty mature, and it's focusing on this turning point in that streak in the 90s. You got me thinking about the addiction. One more thing. Sopranos connection. Michael Imperioli and Edie Falco are also in...
And Edie Falco, pre-Sopranos, Edie Falco's in the addiction.
But no, like the women of Abel Ferrera's movies are always like coming down to this point that he's focused on psychological horror, and not so much like demons and ghosts, but like what does trauma do to your brain, and how do I visualize it? And the best way, unfortunately, is like rape, violence, murder, like Driller Killer, and like even parts of Dangerous, like you say, Dangerous Game, like New Rose Hotel has some stuff like that, if I remember.
Yeah, like Bryden, you said you watched Miss 45 recently. I will admit, I didn't like it the first time I saw it. I saw it in like 2013. I think that was my first Ferrara, and I was kind of in that stage where I was kind of like, well, do you really need to show rape all the time? And like, I wasn't really engaging with anything else that movie was trying to say about trauma and the character's mindset, which in a way was taking away from the actress's work and what Ferrara was trying to say. I can understand if you find that movie to go too far. I mean, the main character is raped twice in that fucking movie. It's really tough to take. But I do think that was like, after those scenes, for whatever reason, I saw it at midnight and was like, fuck this, and just in a very juvenile way where I was just not even trying to get on that movie's wavelength. So it's definitely one I need to revisit again, because it's stuck with me, and I eventually have come down on the side of liking it a lot. But I'm curious, as someone who just watched it, what you thought of it now. And Kevin, you said that's one that you enjoy as well. So
yes, I listened to the saxophone song at the end of it all the time.
My gosh, I think
sax is going nuts.
I was joking to Jack, like if I was at a party where they played that, I think I would leave, because that's just like too much.
Oh my god, I would stay. I would like, these are my people.
Charlie, did you say that you saw that movie at a midnight showing?
I saw it at a midnight showing at like 2013. With my friend Monica Castillo, who liked it at the time, and I was just like cranky and being like,
was that the Coolidge?
No, it was at the Brattle in Harvard Square. And yeah, I think, woke film Twitter was starting to emerge, and I think I got too sucked into this mindset of,
or as we now call them, woke saints. Oh, hey.
Yeah. Well, like the whole, it wasn't exactly like I was saying depiction equals endorsement, but I was just kind of like, this is triggering, and you shouldn't be filming this, and that's not fucking fair. Like, it all depends on the context of what you're depicting, even if it's so tough to watch.
Well, thankfully, we don't deal with that anymore. A depiction and endorsement is completely.
We didn't deal with that with The Last Duel.
No. It's out of here. No, Red Rocket. No. It's out of here.
And to be fair, let me just say, it's very easy of me as a cis man who has not dealt with assaults to it's much easier for me to stomach with this stuff, even if it is tough for me to take. But I do think that there was a part of me several years ago that was trying to be like lumping things into dichotomous categories that you can never do with a Ferrara film, and I was very close-minded of how to approach that movie at the time, and just like brushed it off, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, guys, we forgot that Dre D'Amato was in Swordfish. We forgot that.
I've never seen that movie.
It's not very good. It's fun for like maybe 10 minutes.
I can't wait to watch this garbage, dude. I can't wait.
In high school, all the gross...
Kev, Swordfish, that's so you. Let's be real. That's
all the gross jocks in my high school were like, that's the one where Halle Berry gets naked. And I secretly was like, I'm gay, so I'm not going to see that.
Okay, but the tagline is log on, hack in, go anywhere, steal everything.
Oh,
and then underneath the title it says... password accepted. Okay.
Oh,
we knew what we were doing. Okay?
I am definitely intrigued to see Swordfish based on what I've heard of it. I just remember that being, unfortunately, the movie that everyone in my generation was like, "Oh, Halle Berry gets naked," and
I mean, that movie does a few other things. I mean, like, there's the scene where, like, a woman's, like, death at a bomb is, like, used as, like, a special effects shot where it's like, look how fucking cool this is.
Oh, yeah.
I die. It's like...
Everything else I've heard about the movie since then, I'm like, oh, I fucking need to see this because this sounds unhinged. But
Isn't there a scene kind of like the Social Network scene where they're getting them drunk while they're hacking, except it's like, well, hey, this woman's going to blow you, Hugh Jackman. We need to know how you're going to be able to hack if some things like this are happening.
I was just about to bring up the Social Network. I mean, we all love the Social Network here, but one line that really sucks whenever you rewatch it. Let the hacking begin. Sorkin, come on, no, I'm not one to pick nits, but like, great. Oh my god, really? Like, let the hacking begin. I think it's great, but it's like in that context, like, oh my god.
But maybe that guy would say it. I mean,
you know what? That's true. That is true. Yeah.
Do you think Zuckerberg is a wizard of words? No.
Do you think he pops open the thesaurus every once in a while? Does Swordfish have any connections to Fear.com as bringing it back to our last episode?
I mean, they're both classics, but I mean, other than that, I don't.
They've both been inducted into the AFI Top 100, and like, you know, it's.
I don't know if Stephen Dorff has incredible facial hair like John Travolta does in this movie, but
yeah.
Speaking from ignorance, I haven't seen these two movies. I know
like the
tells me I need
National Library of Congress just like opened up the vault for more movies, and they just went in as well.
They put Swordfish, Fear.com.
Yep, Megan is missing. Other, like, I don't know, like what?
Holy shit. I would tweet about that nonstop for 3 days if that happened. Like, good Christ almighty.
I know that was like a bad example, but I was just trying to think of something that would be outrageous.
That takes the cake, yeah. Have I seen the movie? Of course I've seen that movie. Bryden, what are your opinions on Megan is Missing?
Wouldn't that be crazy if someone picked it for my pod? Like like what would I do?
Is it like just on the cusp of like the?
It's 20. Is it 2011? Is it?
Just in time.
Yeah.
You've gone this far. It's just like, oh, we don't want to cover
10th anniversary. Actually, I'm just.
I also looked that movie up. I think like the cinematographer or like the director is like a cinematographer, Michael Goy.
He was like the head of the National Board of Cinematography or some shit like that.
Yeah, I looked up his credits. He shot like. Yeah, he shot like Words on Bathroom Walls, which is like a teen romance movie that I watched last year, and like, yeah. I mean, a lot of horror stuff, but like, yeah. Anyways, sorry we're talking about Megan is Missing. I do, but yeah. It was interesting just talking about like the roles of women in horror movies. One, I don't know if this is like I don't know if I'm calling it. It did make me laugh, but like the one of the gifts that the kid gets on Christmas morning is a wash and iron toy, which I thought was just like kind of funny. Just like the idea of like planting these like sort of subservient like women domestic roles like in children from like a very young age with like these roles with these toys and everything. She's like, oh cool, wash and iron, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's the saddest detail ever.
Yeah, that's kind of like goes along with Ferrera's peculiar sense of humor. Like Brian, you recommended me like Ferrera best of compilation for the commentaries of Driller Killer in K New York, and it's like, oh, gross. Oh, what was that?
Yeah, there's a commentary apparently for R XMAS on the DVD. We didn't watch this on DVDs, I don't think, but like maybe the DVD would be worth having. But apparently, according to DVD Talk, sometimes a new scene will start and he'll ask, "What the fuck is this?" He'll just like start this stuff off during the commentary, which is very funny.
Yeah, like the King of New York one starts with him being like, "I got paid $5,000 to be here, and I'm here, Jack."
Yeah, sorry guys, I am also gonna have to get up real quick because I have to pee real bad, and my roommate's in the bathroom. So,
while you were gone, we were talking about the cinematic tour de force that is Megan is Missing. So. You missed a lot. No, I'm kidding. Okay. We can get off it. It's fine. But,
she's gonna stay missing.
Do we have anything else, or we want to do closing thoughts?
I mean, closing thoughts. I think that especially if you're a Ferrara fan and you're looking for something a little off color to watch this Christmas season, whenever this comes out within a few days before Christmas. And even, you know what, fuck it. Even if it's like fucking January, I still think it's an interesting piece of work, and I think it definitely plays a part in building up to, in seeing how Ferrara's career, progresses.
I did piggyback off of like what you're talking about. I mean, I think you were less serious about seeing it in January, but it's like this is kind of like a wintry northeast kind of feel to it. Like everyone's bundled up with like layers, and you can tell there's like a frigid chill in the air. I don't know.
Oh,
but
I've been to New York during Christmas season. It's fucking freezing.
Yeah, exactly.
But they shot it in the summer. Ferrara said they shot it in the summer.
really?
How they were just like
That's
blazing hot the whole time. Like that's what he said.
Crazy. I went to New York this past summer, and I've never been more fucking fried in my entire life.
Yeah.
Which I know that it's 2021, and this was, so 20 years past, and global warming has certainly taken a huge hit on everything from then. But I can't imagine filming this in the fucking summer. Maybe it helped make them like more anxious and tense in terms of like sweaty and like clammy and stuff like that. But that's that's wild.
like Massachusetts and New York are identical weather, so I get it. I mean, we get it,
Yeah.
Jack, closing thoughts?
Really, happy I got to be here for 2 movies from auteurs that I really, really enjoy, and to check out their lesser works. That's just like, whoa, wait, no, I know their famous stuff, but it's like, what are these? And I'm kind of like Alex Ross Perry. I'm blank check.
But that's why we love having people like you on here to talk about, like, I mean, we knew starting this podcast that we would be talking about like lesser works that kind of fall through the cracks, which is what I think.
Especially from famous directors like these that have been making movies for decades. And,
I mean, apart from Darren Aronofsky, who started off with Artisan, I think that's kind of what we've been doing now. I mean, I guess Ghost Dog would be considered pretty vital Jarmusch, but
yeah, I'd say so. What did Aronofsky start out with? Pie?
Requiem for a Dream,
Pie, yeah.
both
Yeah.
Artisan.
Gotcha, yeah.
How is the Dead as far as where does that sit?
I mean,
is that an underseen Uwe Ball? Does that get the respect it deserves?
I think
Definitive text.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Bryden.
Must
agreed.
watch. No, but I think R XMAS is still a. I would say, like, if someone's a fan of Ferrera, I would say still check it out. It's in line with what he's interested in. I think that's enough for a sell to continue something else that may not be high tier of their work, but it still is some of their work. And it's not. It doesn't feel like it's abduction from John Singleton. It's not erasing everything that filmmaker has worked up to or something.
Yeah, to me, I really like this. I mean, if you guys are saying this is like lesser Ferrara and everything, if this is like one of his minor works, this is like makes me very excited to see where the rest of his filmography takes me, because I'm very because I think I have like all his movies watch listed right now. I mean, not the porno feature that he made at the start of his career, which is streaming on Mubi. Very funny. But yeah, I really. It's a pleasure when you're watching a movie that like you think you know what you're gonna get with like this simple log line. Like you think it's gonna be like a fast-paced genre movie, and then you get something that's much more kind of funereal.
Yeah, it's really stripped down and like it's pretty personal.
And really like lingers on the mundane but like sort of tender emotional details of like this otherwise sort of like sordid milieu. And I really liked it a lot, and I'm very glad that I got to watch it and talk about it with everyone. And
also, it's like, from what I remember, it's erased music and like a soundtrack, and that's and I think that's like slightly off from any of his other movies that I can remember.
It's Schoolie D that's credited with a lot of the songs. Who did like the song?
Oh,
for
right,
Bad
we already
Lieutenant.
talked about this, yeah.
Yeah, and then U.S. Currency is the band that does the Silent Night hard rock cover over the end credits. Yeah. At least on the version I watched. I don't know. I mean, I rented this off iTunes because that's like the one place you can get it legally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. And I don't know. Yeah, definitely if you're looking for something a little more off the beaten path for Christmas viewing, I would highly recommend this. And it's very short, too. It's only like 85 minutes long. And it really... I mean, it's not a fast-paced movie, but like it really does, like, it passes the time, I think, very well.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at KevBonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at JDoyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CTNash91. Once again, thank you for listening.